Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling an article from endoftheamericandream.com titled, China Just Held a Rehearsal for the Coming Invasion of Taiwan, and Congress just greatly escalated the conflict in Ukraine. Hey, things are heating up all across the planet. You've got the war in Ukraine going on right now, and as we're about to read in this article, it seems China is doing drills to eventually invade Taiwan. But regardless, this is all a part of biblical prophecy. This is Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to start at verse 6. And these are all the end-time signs that Yahawashi HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, told his disciples to look for, to know that they were living in the last days. And really, we're living in the last seconds of the last days before Yahawashi HaMashiach's second coming, the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites or the so-called white people, and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. And this whole situation going on with China and Taiwan, which we're about to read about, is a rumor of war that could eventually become a war. And also what's been going on over the past 20 years, wars. The war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the Libyan civil war, the Syrian civil war, the war in Yemen, the war in Ukraine, etc., etc. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And point blank period, to you sincere Akim and Akwat out there, as it says, see that ye be not troubled. All these things must come to pass before the kingdom of heaven is established. You should be reveling in the fact that all these end times prophecies are either in the process of taking place or taking place as we speak. It just goes to show that our salvation is nearer than when we believed. But what all these wars and rumors of wars are going to culminate into is in World War III. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming. And it will go nuclear. And what have you been seeing in the news a lot lately? Russia talking about its nuclear forces and using them against the West, which is exactly what's going to happen. Russia and its allies, along with the allies of the United States of America, which are going to turn against her at some point during World War III, are going to altogether shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great, turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But that's a lesson for another day. Right now, we're dealing with the wars and rumors of wars that Yahawashi told us about, and which are taking place as we speak. Will the U.S. soon be involved in two major wars at the same time? The U.S. House of Representatives just escalated the proxy war in Europe by approving a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine, and I will have much more to say about that below. But first, I want to talk about a major development in Asia. For a long time, I have been warning that the Chinese will invade Taiwan, and now that day appears to be closer than ever. And Abarataza, the Chinese do go with their move to further entangle and tie up the United States. From Friday through Sunday, China conducted very alarming military exercises off the coast of Taiwan that one Chinese military analyst is referring to as a rehearsal of possible real action, wars and rumors of wars. The Chinese military deployed forces all around the island of Taiwan over the weekend in a set of large-scale military drills that one Chinese military analyst called a rehearsal of possible real action. On Monday, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA, announced its Eastern Theater Command organized maritime, aerial, conventional missile, and other forces around Taiwan and carried out drills around the island from Friday to Sunday. The Eastern Theater Command said the drills were intended to test and improve the joint operations capability of multiple services and arms. During this 3-day rehearsal, the Chinese repeatedly sent aircraft into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. The Ministry of National Defense for the Republic of China, the formal name of the Taiwanese government, documented several instances of Chinese military aircraft entering its Air Defense Identification Zone, ADIZ, over the course of the 3-day exercise. 12 Chinese fighter jets, 2 bombers, and 4 other Chinese aircraft entered Taiwan's ADIZ on Friday. 2 bombers and 3 other aircraft entered Taiwan's ADIZ on Saturday. 2 more aircraft entered the ADIZ on Sunday. China flies military aircraft into Taiwan's ADIZ on a near daily basis. This is extremely aggressive activity, and the Chinese have no intention of backing down. In fact, China just flew an attack helicopter into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone for the very first time. A Chinese Z-10 attack helicopter has apparently entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, and for the first time crossed the so-called median line, an informal boundary running down the center of the Taiwan Strait. The appearance of the attack helicopter, which is operated by both the People's Liberation Army Ground Force and the Air Force Airborne Corps, is also designated WZ-10, marks the latest new Chinese type to enter this sensitive part of the ADIZ. It also points to the growing importance of rotary forces around the Taiwan Strait, including the massive Chinese helicopter base that's strategically positioned to support future operations in the strait or even a potential invasion of Taiwan. I still think that a major war in the Middle East will erupt before China finally decides to pull the trigger on a full-blown invasion of Taiwan, but the clock is definitely ticking. So with this article, you get the point, but as we can clearly see, wars and rumors of wars are taking place all across the planet. And I found it interesting that in this last paragraph, the author of this article said, I still think that a major war in the Middle East will erupt. And that's exactly what's going to happen. The battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon over in that Middle Eastern region, which is the main place where World War III will take place. While you have the war in Ukraine, which is helping to escalate World War III, and this possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan, just remember that major final battle is going to take place in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. This is Joel chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 1, and the header reads, "The nations will be judged. For behold, in those days and in that time," which are the days and times we're living in right now, the last seconds of the last days, the last seconds of the rulership of the heathen nations before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah, the southern kingdom, the so-called Negroes, and Jerusalem, the northern kingdom, or the so-called Latinos and Native Americans, the elect of all 12 tribes waking up and coming back to their power, Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. I will also gather all nations, these heathen nations, these Edomites or so-called white people, the Moabites or the so-called Chinese, the Ishmaelites or the so-called Arabs, the Elamites or the so-called East Indians, the Hamites or the so-called Africans, etc., and will bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew, which means Yahweh's judgment. And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel. And when you go into that word plead in the Strongs, it's Shaphat, which means judgment, punishment, vindication. The Most High is gathering you heathen nations eventually down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, to judge you for afflicting the apple of his eye, the children of Israel, as it says, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and the main culprit behind that are you Edomites, who are also at the top of the list of the heathen nations that came against the children of Israel in Psalms chapter 83. And how did you scatter the children of Israel among the nations? You took the southern kingdom from the west coast of Africa to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade. And when you came over to the Americas and enslaved and stole the land from the northern kingdom, you sent some of them to other parts across the planet and parted my land. And the land of Israel is parted right now between two heathens that don't belong there. These Amalekite Edomites who call themselves the true children of the Most High, as well as those Palestinian Arabs who are actually Ishmaelites. But now I'm going to jump down to verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the heathen Gentiles. And that's exactly what the true men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, are doing by going out onto the highways and byways to preach this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, proclaiming among the Gentiles to prepare for war, World War III, the War of Armageddon, war with Iran, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, war in Ukraine, war in Taiwan, nuclear war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. All these different heathen nations being gathered down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. The United States of America, Russia, China, the state of Israel, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, these other NATO nations, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh, and those mighty ones are the death angels of the Most High, holding back this great destruction, waiting to get the go-ahead to release it, which is mainly going to happen after the Charagma, the mark of the BEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18 is mandatorily implemented, and that, of course, is the RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh's Shabbat, Yahweh's judgment, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. And if you've got that spiritual eye salve, you can clearly see that the day of Yahweh is very near in the valley of decision. And we've got the wars and the rumors of wars taking place, as well as all these other end-time signs that Yahushua told his disciples to look for taking place as we speak. And while you've got the war in Ukraine taking place, a possible war between China and Taiwan, or any other conflicts that'll pop up and help add fuel to the fire to World War III, remember that World War III is going to ultimately culminate into this battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.